Welcome to Movies Are Life. I'm your host, Nathan Chandler. Love must be in the air because we are kicking off a new series in 2023, the 50 Best Rom-Coms. I wanted to start this series the best way I know how by inviting one of the premier rom-com experts that I know to discuss our first movie, and she happens to be my wife. Welcome in, Whitney.
Hello. Love is in the air, isn't it?
It is in the air. I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way. We had a technical difficulty, and so we're really trying to recreate some magic here. We lost our first recording.
It was magical.
It was pretty good, and so
we laughed, we cried. It was a beautiful rom-com.
But this is just how much we care about the audience that we are doing a second go with this. So.
Fingers crossed it'll still be as funny.
Yeah.
Probably won't be.
Well, before we jump into today's film, I thought that we could set up this series a little bit. I mentioned it before, but The Ringer is a website/podcast network that I adore. They write amazing articles about all the things that I love: movies, television, music, sports, but they also love lists. And it's hard to find a movie fan who doesn't enjoy a good list. So last spring, they came out with this list of the 50 greatest rom-coms, and I loved this concept. Well, when thinking about what we could cover in this New Year's, I thought this would be a really fun list to tackle and debate. Movies Are Life isn't becoming strictly a rom-com podcast, so don't worry about that. But throughout the year, we'll still tackle new and old movies that are relevant and worth talking about. But this series will be a big chunk of the content for the year. I have pretty much aligned each movie with its own unique guest or guest. So how much do we love rom-coms? So much so that when I was thinking about how to propose to Whitney almost 15 years ago, I made my own rom-com proposal video, which consisted of various clips from the best rom-com movies and maybe a couple clips of Ross and Rachel from Friends.
You could probably go and view that. Is that viewable? I don't even know. Like, can you find it on Vimeo or something, or is it on YouTube?
I have it saved, probably on Vimeo. I was afraid to put it on YouTube because I was afraid it would get flagged for copyright violations. But
Nathan took us into our own movie theater at Baylor's campus, and he told me that we were watching his friend, who was also in the. Was it film school? It wasn't film school. What's it called at Baylor?
Well,
Communications department,
yes.
But had to make a movie, which made perfect sense to me for her end of the year final. And we were going to go and watch it. And so I believed that wholeheartedly. And we were in the room, and I still believed it at the beginning, even in it's all movies that I knew clips of. I was still watching it thinking, wonder how she's able to use all these clips for this movie that she made. But it's really fun to watch, and you should go find it. You should post it on your website somehow.
Yeah, I should, and hopefully lawyers don't come after me if I do that.
Yeah.
But even going further back to my love of the genre, I even made a short film in college called Lovesick, which pretty much was a ripoff of all my favorite scenes from favorite rom-com. So it's something that it's a genre that I've just always had a soft place in my heart for. Whitney, why do you personally love romantic comedies so much?
I think I love romantic comedies because I can always relate to something about them, either a feeling or an emotion or the happy, the sad parts. I think that, I'm not really a sci-fi person because I don't think it feels as real. Like I need to be able to relate to the person. And so rom-coms are very relatable. Usually somebody's doing something stupid, somebody's being chased, or somebody is the chaser. And so I think you can always find a person that you are in the movie. I was probably normally the best friend, let's be honest. So I probably was as well. It's probably a miracle. Probably a miracle we became the main stars.
I just had an idea for a great film. It's the best friends of the leads in a romantic comedy who
the
end up together.
switcheroo. Yeah.
But so by going through this list, we're basically going to see if this film is worthy of the throne. We'll discuss each film, what we may like or dislike about the film, and how it lives up to the rom-com tropes that we have come to love and expect. At the end of each discussion, I have created a rating system for each film that will help us determine if each film is worthy of its ranking. Sound fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first film that we're going to talk about is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It's number 43 on the list.
That just really upsets me. It needs to be higher. After rewatching it, it just makes me smile ear to ear.
Well, and that's why incorporating this ranking system, I think that's why it'll help to see if maybe it should be higher than number 43. I thought this one was a good one to start with because, one, I know that it's a favorite in our house. Hallie, our 12-year-old, she's already declared it as her favorite movie. And not every film on the Ringers list necessarily plays into the tropes that we come to expect. There's a couple of movies on the list, such as Bull Durham or even The 40-Year-Old Virgin, that I don't necessarily associate with a rom-com, but when you think about it, I'm like, oh, okay, so we'll kind of see how this plays out in the ranking. But with How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, I thought for sure, it's just a movie, when you think of it, it would be in the rom-com section. You could go straight there. There'd probably be more than one copy of it if shelves for movies did exist still. I guess they do in libraries.
If we could go to Blockbuster.
Yeah. So a little background on the movie. If you haven't seen it, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was released in 2003 and directed by Donald Petrie. So, does that name, is that familiar to you at all?
No, never heard of it.
So it wasn't to me either, but as I started diving into his IMDb, listen to these other movies that he directed. Miss Congeniality.
Oh, love it.
Grumpy Old Men.
Got it, yeah. I didn't say love it, but I do really like it.
I remember liking it.
Yeah, I liked it.
We probably would relate to it a little bit better now.
Now than when it came out.
Yeah, and a favorite of yours, Mystic Pizza.
Oh, I love Mystic Pizza. What a strange list of movies.
It is, yeah. But he also,
I like it. Maybe he's my favorite director. I didn't even know it.
I learned he's directed several episodes of The Kaminsky Method on Netflix with Kirk Douglas. That show that we enjoyed.
He is my favorite director. Donald Petrie.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah,
you're in.
Also, kind of skews maybe towards we're a little older than our actual ages, I think sometimes. So, but. So this film stars Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey. It's based on a picture book of the same name by Michelle Alexander and Jeannie Long. The book has no narrative, only a list of comedic dating quote-unquote don'ts, so the characters and plot were created specifically for this film. In this film, advertising executive Benjamin Barry, played by McConaughey, makes a bet that he can make any woman fall in love with him, while women's magazine writer Andy Anderson, played by Kate Hudson, plans to write an article about how she led her boyfriend to dump her, putting them at a crossroads after they choose each other as their romantic partners. So, Whitney, I'll give you the floor. Why do you like this movie so much?
It's just a great plot. You can't get much better than that, right? You just got somebody on one side that's trying to do the opposite of the other. So it's like a perfect back and forth that's going to happen the whole time. But I think what I really do like about it is those are types of things that we always know that are dating faux pas. Like everything in there is something that somebody has done accidentally before or seen people do, and you cringe and make that face like, please don't do that. And then with the guy, usually like they would just run away, but he's like constantly trying to stay. And so I like the whole time. It's just funny. And rewatching it with our girls, they just like cackled at certain parts. And I think that's the nice part about it is sometimes a romantic comedy has something that's funny like once and you see it on the trailer. And this one has funny scenes all the way through that you're like remembering like, oh my gosh, remember they did that. Whatever it may be. Yeah.
Does the plot itself, I think in a lot of movies, and movies in general, and it's probably the reason we like movies, is that, it's in a world that we're not normally a part of. This plot in this movie, I find pretty unrealistic. Does that part of it bother you at all?
No, It doesn't, except I will say that I always thought it was pretty unrealistic. It is, it's a movie. But until rewatching it, I thought they did a good job in that they're both in agencies and work for companies that would relate and go together. And so it wasn't like just some random dude. Like those two ladies that work with Matthew McConaughey or Benjamin Barry or whatever his name is, that work with Matthew McConaughey, they overheard that she had to do that. So they set him up. And I always think that helps the story because it wasn't just two random people that bumped into each other on the street. Like they got conned into that. Like they knew he was they just wanted to mess him up. And she, just that happened to be overheard about her article. So I think it always kind of helped the story a little bit.
Yeah. And thinking about it too, I do like the concept of this movie because it's two people who have love, falling for somebody is actually the last objective in their lives. Like they're very professional, goal-oriented type of people.
Like solely doing it for work.
Yeah. So it makes it fun that they are kind of toying with each other, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I joined that. A big part of these about this genre is the jobs that they possess. Did you ever want to be a magazine writer at all?
No, I did not. I did not. I'm actually a really great writer. If you'd like me to write something for you, I enjoyed English. I was a religion major at Baylor, so all I did was write papers. But I do not want to write. It is not something I'm like. It's not a creative outlet that I crave.
Yeah, it's very much in the setting of this movie has a lot, being set in New York City. New York City always has a lure, and there's something about the magazine writer in New York that seems just like.
Did you want to do it?
I write movie review. I think
so. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. Now I could see her struggle. I never would want to write anything as serious as she wanted to write. But I like the concept. I've always been intrigued by magazines.
You didn't want to be a how-to boy, like she's a how-to girl.
I don't.
How to mow the yard? What would a guy's how-to be? How to mow the yard? How to change the oil?
Well, a classic of like how to get 6-pack abs in. I don't know if 10 days is realistic or not.
How to do 6-minute abs instead of 7-minute abs.
But I can't pull that off. They look at me, take one look at me and be like, oh, why are you writing this article?
It's the joy of a magazine. They can't see you. It's kind of like a podcast.
Yeah. So funny. What about ad exec? That ever appeal to you? No. Why not?
To be honest, I can instantly tell you why.
Why?
So on Friends, when Chandler decides he's going to go back and be an ad exec, and he sits in there and tries to come up with ideas, and he's like, there are wheels for your shoes, and he can't come up with anything to be funny, and it's just all of his stuff was terrible. I felt like it would just stress me out.
Yeah.
Because he thinks he's funny. I think I'm funny. I feel like it wouldn't translate. It wouldn't be funny.
I'm in the marketing world, so...
So you wanted to do both of these jobs?
Yeah, pretty much. And so with this podcast, I'm just filling in the gaps that I don't get in now. I think what works really well in this movie is the chemistry between McConaughey and Hudson. I was really impressed with certain scenes, just especially at the beginning where they're flirting with each other and just using one little words back and forth. And there's even this scene in the movie theater after he's been hit and they're lying on the floor. She's kind of consoling him, so to speak. But there's just some things that kind of jump off screen that I don't think in the written word would necessarily. I just thought they maybe elevated the material a little bit more than what it's worth.
I definitely think they have chemistry, but I also think that those two individuals have chemistry with the camera or with the audience. And I don't know, I can't decide if it's that they have chemistry together or that they're both just so good at, McConaughey is just built for smiling at the camera and the audience swooning and falling in love. And same with Kate Hudson. You really can buy her, if she's going to be the good girl or even the little bit wilder. She was definitely somebody that guys would want to be with because she wasn't that like the best friend that's always trying to lose the guy. She really wasn't that person, and so you fell in love with her.
Yeah.
But I think they're perfect together, and I think that I do think you said 2003.
Yes.
I'd be curious, like when McConaughey like kind of took his like dark turn where he looked a little bit more greasy. I mean, because definitely in this movie he is like the epitome of a rom-com.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. As you were talking, I just was kind of thinking about it a little bit. I think there's like certain movies that you see, and especially it's not completely unfair to say that the rom-com genre appeals to a certain like group of people or whatever. And so sometimes the romantic leads, especially if it's something the main character is pining over, I'm thinking like, even though I never saw it, but like when Twilight came out and there was Robert Pattinson, and like guys would be like, why are girls like going crazy over that guy? I think
Not me.
but I think what works in this movie in a way is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Kate Hudson very much seems like a girl that all girls would want to be, and guys would always kind of. Matthew McConaughey is like someone they kind of would like to be too.
I think that the people that watch rom-coms, yes. I don't know if every person. I mean, there's a lot of people right now that I even know listening to here that'd be like, I don't want to be Kate Hudson.
Yeah. But there's something which you were talking about. They, regardless if they were in this movie or whatever, if they walked into a room, you would be like drawn to them. They have a
magnetic.
Yeah. I think personally it's the East Texan charm of Matthew McConaughey because we're from the same neck of the woods. So
what do you mean?
Matthew McConaughey is famously went to my high school. Shut up. Whitney's never heard this before.
Were you like best friends with Matthew McConaughey?
I wasn't. I invited him to my 16th birthday party. He did not come.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think he might have been busy like prepping for this movie. I don't know.
What? So. How much older is he than you?
Oh.
You don't know? I mean, do you remember when he was
with our
in
producer?
School? Yeah.
No, he's quite a bit older. Don't you think he's like 48 or 50?
Probably so old, like 48.
Let's just ask our watcher. Siri, how old is Matthew McConaughey? Oh, he's 53. I thought my watch would say it out loud.
Oh, he's way older. But you remember, I mean, did teachers have him and that sort of thing that you went to school with? Or
yeah, he was famously, he was known for being from there and stuff like that. And so even remember a time he came onto campus and just stopped. Every teacher couldn't even perform their normal duties that day because they knew he was a star. They completely forgot us kids.
They were like,
it was a wasted day of education in Longview High School.
Did the kids care or just the teachers?
The girls certainly did for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of a funny tidbit there. Is there anything in this movie like iconic prop or what's besides the characters themselves, what's something that's really memorable to you in this movie?
Well, you're probably wanting me to say the love fern, so I will give love fern a number 1 as a prop. Like it's probably the main prop. I think that I referenced that like always, even before we rewatched it this week, or we were at where were we? Home Depot, and there was a fern that kind of looked like that size, and I kind of grabbed it, and I was like, "Can we get this? It can be our love fern." And so I think that's just an iconic one from the movie for sure. He even grabs it at the end of the movie to run and go find her to make sure that they have the love fern. But some of my favorite props are the towels and the doilies. I don't know why those make me laugh so much. I guess because in New York, there's not any single woman that is as cool as Andy is, Kate Hudson, would have those towels and doilies. Like she purposely just was really trying to get him with those. And the fact that he even believed it at that point, that she really would bring those towels and lace covered things over that. I don't remember if they said his and hers, but whatever they were pretty awful. I love those. But there's all sorts of funny, like memorable. I love his plaid shirt and the way that they're the Plaid family with that horrible, horrible dog. And I think that as being from the South, that plaid shirt, I that's probably one of the faux pas we made, is that I'm sure I've made you match me in multiple pictures at least. Maybe not on day 3 of dating, but I'm pretty sure if you had a plaid shirt, I might have a shirt that matched. Maybe not also plaid. But.
Well, on my end, I think that's definitely when you start dating somebody and you're starting to think about like how serious this is, and the matching outfit for a photo session, or maybe like a friend at that time a
wedding you're going to go to.
A wedding.
You're like, I'm wearing a blue dress. You need a blue tie.
Yeah, that's definitely mentally where I was like, okay, we've stepped up a notch in the in the relationship meter. Yeah. Another thing. Oh, you were talking about the decorations. I laughed when we were watching this with Hallie, and it's at Ben's parents' house, but they had the toilet seat that had the little...
Yeah, the fur cover on it, yeah.
Allie was like, why would somebody put that on there? And I distinctly remember my grandmother having that. So, and I remember one time you were talking to me about just, I mean, she graces it on the cover, Kate Hudson, but you talked about just how iconic her dress was, like in the moment of when this movie came out. The yellow dress with her yellow hair. I don't know if too many people that can pull that off. It really fit the diamond that she wears, obviously at the end of the movie. But I don't think anybody besides Kate Hudson in that movie could probably pull off that yellow dress, but. Yeah. I couldn't with my fair skin. But. And I have blonde hair. And you have blonde hair, yeah. Do you have any favorite quotes from this movie? Or
Oh, I have so many. I was going to call you Nate, but I couldn't even pull it off because I'm sitting here too close to you in the studio. Benny Boo 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 Bear. I love that one. She calls him all sorts of names like Bennykins and Benny Winnie. And I just think of a guy just like cringing every time that she would use his name in that like terrible way. I think that's really funny. I have more like classic scenes, I think, than classic lines. Do you have a line that you love?
Yeah, I never. I've seen this a couple of times now, but I think the way that McConaughey delivers the BS line is just classic, just bullshit. Yeah, and especially how it plays. A funny word that makes it like ties them together. But the card game that the family's playing together, and then so they never really explain. Now that I'm talking, how he has this like Texas accent, and his family is apparently from Staten Island.
Nobody cares. It's Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, it's true.
It's all right.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, no. You mentioned it. Scenes. What's one of your favorite scenes from this movie?
Oh, I think all of them are funny. Probably now that I have children, the Coke scene at the NBA game is one of my favorites. And that's one of the very, very first things that they do is go on the date to the NBA game. And it's like the last 2 minutes and she's dying of thirst. And she comes back and just acts like it's the wrong soda and needs another one. And he has to run and go get it. And just watching the turmoil on his face, like when my kids have to go to the bathroom at the end of the game. And they are my children. I love them dearly. But you're just like, please, are you kidding me? And so for a date that's a grown adult, I'd be like, no, we're done. Like, I'd be like, you're finished. and she just knows it. The minute he leaves, she's high-fiving everybody. And again, that goes back to why I love it so much is because she knows every time. Where that other best friend is always like, why was that wrong? I just wanted to see how much they loved me. And you're like, you just want to punch the friend, But I love that scene. But I'm probably taking all of yours. I'm sorry. But my favorite thing that I think really got me back then was the photo booth, the photo album of when she comes in and brings what their children would look like. Because 2003 means it was the end of college for me. And all my friends were either dating somebody they were going to marry or starting, and not me. I wasn't dating you yet. I wasn't ready to get married for 4 or 5 more years. And so, but that's what people did. We didn't have Snapchat to filter our faces together. That was not existence. But they did have these apps where you could put your face with somebody else, and that was who you were going to marry. And they always looked that horrible. As horrible as those children in that book look. They're just almost look alien-esque, just terrible looking children. And I think I like cry laughed every time I saw that part because it's so funny. But rewatching it, our youngest Hayden, and I guess to give a parent guide, I don't know if necessarily you want your kids, we think most of it goes over their head and we watch it with them. So you do you, and if you want to let your kids watch it. But we were watching it, and on that part, Hayden just like cackled when she saw them in these like yodeling outfits. And what were they dressed as? Like little,
it was like a scene from Sound of
Music, and
yeah.
their kids' faces were on there, and she just like laughed out loud. So I love that scene.
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
Well, the one you mentioned, the New York Knicks game. I mean, just as a sports fan, that I think that scene's hilarious. I mean, that's a killer. But I've become a little numb to that now. Like as you mentioned, with our kids, having to go to the bathroom in the middle of the game. Or the good thing about being at home now, at least you can pause it. If it, it's. I also love the guys' night poker scene that Andy invades. I think that whole series of events that happens there is hilarious.
When she rips that pizza out and puts in the cucumber sandwich, like she hates. Nobody likes a cucumber sandwich. Gross.
Yeah, and like how she tells him to put the cigar, and he does, but how he looks at all his other buddies, and they all reluctantly do it too, and the way she like waves at her nose, like and then even just how that she thinks they break up, like just everything that happens after that is really good. And as far as just like a kind of heartwarming scene, I do love that scene where she goes, meets his family for the first time. And because that's really like, it's a pivotal moment as I kind of joked about earlier, how unrealistic this movie is, how that is actually like, I think when you meet the family is a big momentum in somebody's relationship of whether they want to stay with that person or not, so.
And I love that scene too. I will say that I always think that's a funny, either they edited it weird and left it out just for time's sake or whatever, but the quote unquote therapist, who's the friend, it tells them that they should go and meet his parents and spend the weekend with the parents. And so it was like a perfect way for Andy to like really mess with him. And we don't quite see where it turns around, but she never messes with him once they get home. I mean, like she plays with his parents. She's a great, like girlfriend meeting the parents. She comes into the house. She plays the game. She rides on his motorcycle. They have a sexy shower scene. She's like the epitome of an amazing person at that event. And so I realize that we're supposed to realize she falls in love with his family and can't hurt them and that sort of thing. But I always thought that was kind of a strange, like, they didn't tell us why. Like, she never messed with him. Maybe they should have had her mess with him just a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the only, obviously I don't think it's winning a Grammy. Not a Grammy. I'm sorry, an Oscar. We've already done this once. I do always think that was kind of like, what, you just... all of a sudden it's perfection now? Yeah.
So. Well, it almost would confuse Ben a little bit more, I think, almost, because like he always talked about like, where's the sexy Andy? And then, now this is a crazy one. It's actually a third component of Andy. So he, on his perspective, he might have been even more confused after everything. Yeah.
Maybe.
So,
but I did think it was sweet. I mean, she obviously... we always wonder, like, maybe she had a bad home life or something they didn't go into, because she definitely loved his family. Yeah. I thought that was sweet.
What do you think about the scene, like, basically the big diamond party where she wears the yellow dress, this big gala or whatever? And I still can't decide if it works or not. The whole scene where they jump on stage and she starts singing "You're So Vain," and they get, it's meant to be awkward. It's completely awkward, but there's just something to me that's a little off on that scene. Do you like that scene? Or
I do, because she was just finally ticked. But I think why I like the scene is because it's such the epitome of those diamond dealers in the perfume commercials. Like, it just looks the part to me. And that old lady, she's playing herself, I think, the diamond lady.
Right.
But she's just like... she's just the epitome of that, and so it seems schmarmy like that. It is awkward, and it's supposed to be awkward, but So it doesn't bother me, but it bothers you.
I kind of feel like the writing kind of put them all in this room, and they didn't quite know how to get them out of there. Does that make sense? But anyway, I just can't imagine, no matter how much you've had to drink or how much you were mad at this person, that they would like get on stage in front of all their peers and start
once they've fallen in love, they weren't just mad for jobs anymore.
Yeah.
They were hurt in a different manner.
Yeah.
You had to be.
Love makes you
do crazy things.
Movie musings.
Okay, that takes us into our movie musings segment. I have a couple of questions for you. In this movie, they discuss that all is fair in love and war. Whitney, do you believe all is fair in love and war?
No, I do not. Except I just did say that love makes you do crazy things, so maybe I'm counteracting that answer. But when I hear that, you probably meant this just to be funny, but when I hear all is fair in love and war, I think it excuses abuse in some way. And so it really takes me down like a dark alley, which is not for the rom-com of this topic.
Yeah.
But I really don't think that all is fair in love and war. I have to, like, I know they were just getting at the point for the movie, like that she could trick him and he could trick her, and that's why they said that. But so in that regard, I wouldn't have been mad or held that over their head. I would have thought it was funny. But if somebody were to cheat or to abuse, I'd be gone. Like, sorry, Nathan, I'd be out. And so I don't think so. Do you?
Well, not now, not after.
Not after that answer.
Not after hearing your answer.
Maybe I should make you go first.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, I'm the one who's asking the question. No,
Sure.
Yeah. Have you ever self-sabotaged a date before?
Yeah. Okay. I have.
Without using names, without incriminating yourself too much?
I mean, I had some dates that were terrible. I did date this guy that, he was weird. He just showed up at my door. I should never have gone out with him. I met him somewhere.
He just showed up at your door?
I met him somewhere out, and I'm sure he was wearing a hat at the time. I don't know. But he came over to the house, and he was no longer wearing a hat. And he had like a, I guess he rode motorcycles, which I did not know, and I will not ride a motorcycle. But he had on a bandana that he wears all the time. He wasn't wearing it when he showed up at the door, but he had a suntan line that was literally like white, pale as could be on the top of his forehead, and then the rest was tan, as if it wasn't like a golfer's tan. It didn't have a great look. It was because of riding a motorcycle in this bandana. And I was like, well, I guess I'll drive, because I wasn't going to ride on the motorcycle. And then from that point forward, it was like,
So, if famously in this movie, it plays a big part in this movie. Ben drives a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So let's pretend Nathan never existed in your life. I know that's really hard, but if you saw Ben in the motorcycle, it's Matthew McConaughey.
If Matthew McConaughey asked me to get on a motorcycle with him, I'd probably ride on it.
Okay, good to know you're human at some level.
But the guy that showed up at my door, no. I'm out.
Oh, somehow McConaughey's hair always looked perfect after he put that helmet off. Took that helmet off and on too.
Yeah.
But, all right. So have
you ever self-sabotaged a date? You didn't answer.
No, I was probably, I don't think I was ever in any power position as these two characters are in this movie. I do remember a date not going great and like trying to end it, and it just wasn't happening. And I really struggled with trying to find out how to not be rude about it. And even I knew I was a nice enough guy that I didn't ever want to go somebody or lead somebody on. But like usually after like a date that you think's going good, you say something like, "Oh, we should do this again" or whatever. And I just remember really struggling. I don't think I ever offered anything like that up.
Well, when you and I went on our first date,
oh yeah,
we had Nathan and I talked so much at the time over Facebook Messenger, and then we talked on the phone a little bit. We lived in like about an hour away, and so you'd have to plan a date. And so we had planned a date for dinner, and my dad was coming in town, and I was supposed to pick him up at the airport at 7. And so I did not want to cancel because it had been a while. So I just said, could I pick you up? My dad was actually coming in earlier than that. And so I said, can we do lunch instead? And so Nathan was working. So we had to do a quick lunch, and it ended up being at just a random local restaurant right there. And so we had to go and meet for a very fast lunch. And so it was kind of awkward to begin with. But when we showed up, it just felt weird because we had we had talked so much, we didn't have the normal questions to cover. Like, you even knew what I was doing that day. You knew my dad was coming in town. You knew everything. So we sat there, we didn't know what to talk about, and we didn't have, time to do it. And anyway, I ordered, a club sandwich. And Nathan just said, I'll also have a club sandwich. And I was like, I am done. Are you kidding? You're ordering the same thing as me? And so I left, and my friend was like, you have to go back out with him. Because I was like, nope, She was like, no, are you kidding? You guys talked forever. And so, I think that's one reason I love this movie is because that you don't let the stupid things, send you away. Because I think sometimes, even if two people would be perfect together, you're looking for things to sabotage right at the beginning, And I think that, not to get, sappy, but that's one thing I love about the movie is that there's a million times he should have left and not stayed, and she was trying her darndest to get him to leave, and he would not leave. And I think that sometimes if we would fight that hard for things, that we'd make it a little bit longer. If you're that vulnerable, you'd have even if it's a friend or a relationship or whatever. I think that's one reason I really like the movie is because they just persevered through that movie. So anyway,
another funny thing I like to tell about that date is that. In the middle of it, you had this keychain, and it was a new logo, a marketing promotional material for who you worked with at the time. And
I helped write the slogan for the marketing material.
Yeah.
And Nathan is in marketing.
Yeah. And so anyway, I was like, oh, that's a cool little keychain. And you told me all about it. And you said, hey, here, have it. I was like, oh, awesome, sweet. So after we've eaten lunch and we're walking out, and mentally I went, crap, I left that keychain at the table. But then I was like, it will seem desperate that if I go back in to get this keychain, it'll be like, oh my gosh, I left a piece of her in the restaurant or something. But then also I'm like, did she notice that I left the keychain?
It was a really C- first date, wasn't it? Yeah. We decided to repeat our real first date on an actual Friday where we he came and took me out. Yeah. And it was really good. But other than that, it was fine. And but that first date, it was not so good.
And we famously joke about now, why so many people go to Chili's all the time as their choice of restaurant. And I chose that as our first date. Yeah.
I didn't even admit that a minute ago. I was letting you sound cooler than that.
Well, I'd be on trying to hide how cool I am these days. But before we go into this ranking system, is there anything else you would like to add about this movie or anything like that?
I don't think so.
Okay, great.
Do you have any other things to add about the movie?
No, I think we'll talk about it a little bit going into this. So there's 5 different categories in these rom-com rankings, and so we're going to hit each one.
Now remember we're trying to move it up from 43. We got to move that sucker up.
That's what you're trying to do.
That's what I'm trying to do. Yes.
I'm not thinking. I'm looking at the movie. I'm rating it how I just feel in the moment.
I know,
I'm
you're
not thinking,
such a good person.
I'm not thinking about all the other movies.
You're such a good person.
Okay, so I thought a good
first category 5. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Carry on.
Okay, romantic chemistry. So, where would you rank from 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest? I don't know if it's corny to say 1 heart or 5 hearts, but
that's corny.
Yeah, that's corny. Okay, so how would you rank the chemistry between Hudson and McConaughey?
I think I'd give him a 4.
A 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually lean towards 5.
Oh, look at me. See what I did? Reverse psychology. I pulled him on up to a 5.
No, I just think, I don't, did they do another movie together? I don't think they did. Oh, wait, they did.
They were in other movies together.
There was one that they did that tanked. I can't think of the name of it.
So maybe it was good, this one. I think this one pinned them both in roles that they would actually be as those professional, people. And so I think that was the helpful. I think that help them shine in this movie is that those are both roles that they would actually be. So
Yeah. Yeah. They were in a movie. Did you ever? I didn't see this one. Fool's Gold. Did you see that one?
I saw that one.
Yeah.
It's not as good as this one.
Oh man.
What score did it
The
get?
meta score is 29.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. IMDb is 5.7. So
Let's watch it.
as a follow up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because Donald Petrie didn't direct it. I think.
Yeah, Donald Petrie's the real. Let's give him 5 stars. 5 stars for the directing.
I think a big component of a romantic comedy is the best friend component. So this is the second category. So there's Michelle and Jeannie who play Andy's best friends, and Tony and Thayer who play Ben's best friends. How do you think they rank on the best friend scale?
So on that scale, I mean, I can think of more iconic best friends. So I'm not going to say that they're like the best of the best. But I really like them in that they're not like, I think why it's hard to rank them is like in the traditional sense is they're not necessarily their best friends. These are their coworkers. And again, they're trying to get the job or get the article or get the ad agent, like the guys are in on it because they want to win the to be the lead on the agency or case or whatever it is. What is it called?
Like the campaign.
The campaign. But so I think that like adds a component that I think is kind of interesting and different, that they're all kind of in on it. But I don't think of them would be like their actual best friend in real life. So,
yeah.
But I do think they play that role of either the whiny best friend or the that sort of role. So, I don't, 4.
4?
Yeah.
So you're messing.
3.5. 3.5.
I would agree. I'd go 3.5. I really like the actress who plays Jeannie, Annie Paris. Maybe that's how you say it.
Is that the like one that's bad with boyfriends?
No, Michelle is Catherine Hahn's character.
Yeah.
And I think she's real memorable. Jeannie, I think is completely forgettable.
That's who I think's forgettable. That's why I said that is like she's nobody wants to be her best friend.
Yeah. Tony and Thayer are definitely like, those guys. Like, Adam Goldberg, who's done lots of both comedic dramatic work, but a lot more dramatic work, like in Saving Private Ryan. But I knew Whitney would know him from Friends when he was Joey's like insane roommate.
That's why I can't like him.
And then Thomas Lennon, he's been in so many things. He's always really solid. So anyway, but I'm a big fan of Catherine Hahn. This is definitely in her early days, but I think they bring some stellar work in.
So you say 3.5? I'll go 5. I'll go 5.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. 3.5.
You're really messing with me right now. They're not the best friends in the movie, but we did laugh about the 2 females who work at the ad agency with Ben, who are like, know about this whole thing. They're the ones who like hone in. I think they're horrible in the movie. They just they slink around. They're always peering around corners, like completely forgettable. But anyway, I think a component of a good romantic comedy is the soundtrack. So this is the other category.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought it was fun because, nowadays
this is the best.
Everything's streaming, single based. There's only certain artists that can release an album and people listen to the album, like Taylor Swift or something like that. And so obviously you don't hear as much about soundtrack albums like you do, like you did back then. I mean, that was a big thing. And so part of the fun of watching this movie, if you ever get the experience of watching this movie with Whitney, you'll just enjoy her singing along to the songs in this movie.
Depending on who you are, I probably wouldn't sing out loud. Let's be honest.
Would you?
I don't know. So I don't know what, I think I was also playing on my phone, like, because we had rewatched it once and then we rewatched it again because our 12-year-old is 12 and likes to rewatch and rewatch and rewatch. And so I did rewatch once, here we are. But I think that the thing I love about it is I was just over there just belting it. And I think you're right. It's because I had the CD and I played in my car on repeat. And so every song, even if it was not the known song, like feels like home to me. Literally, I just started singing it and it just brought back a flood of memories. One being like I was a tridelt at Baylor and it just reminded me of Rush so much. Like you're just swaying back and forth and saying it feels like home to me. I mean, There's nothing more Rush-like in my life than that. And just all of the songs just brought back so many things, and I loved every part of the way that the soundtrack went. And so I would definitely go right now to Spotify and plug it in and have it play for you if you love the movie in the first place. So I give that one a 5.
A 5. That's pretty strong. I really did the research with this, and I listened to the soundtrack. I thought it was a very solid soundtrack. I was really surprised. It does a really good job of kind of spanning the decade, so to speak. A couple of songs that are on the soundtrack: "Follow You Down" by Jim Blossoms, "Somebody Like You" by Keith Urban, "Let's Stay Together" by Al Green. I mean, classic. "Kiss Me," Sixpence None the Richer. "Kiss Me" was probably on every soundtrack in the 90s. And then, of course, which plays very much into the plot of this movie, is "You're So Vain" by Carly Simon, the tune that the two belt at each other. And so listening through the soundtrack, there was occasionally song here and there, like it was like, who's that artist, whatever. But I was delightfully surprised. I would give it 3.5.
I think my score so high just goes back to because it was a full CD, and they're not going to do that now. So I think new movies are going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I think the way it goes now, like they almost lean on it more on a social media marketing wise. So something like Stranger Things, they probably have like people like, listening to the song and making a playlist of those songs. So I think they kind of almost like users build that momentum versus them just coming out with a straight soundtrack these days.
Right.
Kind of helps with that. Okay. The fourth category, the chase scene or the declaration of love.
I really love the article at the end, and I want to know more. I wish they would have said more about it. They kind of they show you the little blurbs. I'd like to stop and read it. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll stop and read it next time. But I think if it had been like a voiceover, I would have really loved to hear that while he was chasing her, because I just wanted to hear what she said and how she wrote the article. But maybe it just left me wanting more. I don't know. I think it was a good chase scene. In the movie that Nathan made for me to propose, he compiles all the main parts of rom-coms, and so the declaration and then the chase scene is definitely in there, and so it was one of the chase scenes that was in there, and so I like it. I think it's good. All good chase scenes have a little bit of stress. It stresses me that they stop on that major road right there in New York City. That really bothers me. But I think that all of that is a fun scene. I like that he goes back to the office and realizes that the doctor or the therapist was the friend. So I think that it would have been fun for me if they could have laughed a little bit more about the terrible things she did to him. I would have liked them to revisit that. That doesn't have anything to do with the chase scene, but I would have liked that too. So why don't you rank it first?
Yeah, to me, this one's all right. It's not completely. I gave it 2.5. I think it's average. Once again, now it does.
I'll give it a 3.
I mean, he does have a motorcycle. They cleverly use that throughout the movie to, this is something he could actually do, weave in and out of traffic and that sort of thing. It's cute that he grabs the love fern, before he sees her.
Yeah,
and stuff
you're maybe
going
to make it go up.
Yeah, but I just don't, I think as we go through this list, I think there's going to be greater scenes that probably stick out a little bit more. I think when people think about this movie, they don't think about the ending of it. I agree. Yeah. Okay, and I think this is this last category. I mean, I think this completely defines what makes not any movie so great, but especially romantic comedies, is the rewatchability of this movie. So, do you want me to go first? So I'm not always what I rate the rewatchability of this movie.
No, because I have rewatched it a lot lately, and I would give that one a 5. I gave the last part a 3. I will give this part a 5.
Okay, I also give it a 5.
Yes!
Actually, yeah. Even though
that's why we're married, my Benny Boo Boo Bear.
Even though this isn't a movie as far as it's not going to be on the AFI's list of the 100 greatest movies ever, but no means. But thinking about this movie, and especially some of the scenes and stuff, if this was a movie I just walked in it's at somebody's house, it's playing, in a hotel TV or something like that, I'm sitting down and watching it. It's going to have a scene that I'm like, oh, I like this scene, or anticipating another scene coming up. And it's very much like comfort food in that sense. That
it makes me smile.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's supposed to do, is makes you laugh and makes you like engage from the beginning, and you can kind of step in it whenever. I don't know if you know this about me, but it was kind of a big thing for me growing up, like high school, college age, and I guess I still do it mentally. I just don't have anybody else in my dressing room. But, you go clothes shopping and your mom's there, or your friends from college are there. And pants had to make me dance for me to buy them. So I'd have to put them on, and I'd instantly have to start dancing in them to know if I liked them. Not because I needed to dance in these said pants, but that meant that I liked the pants, as if they made me dance. So this movie makes me smile, so that's why I that's why I think it's so great.
Are the pants you're wearing now, are they danceable pants?
Well, nowadays I would not wear anything that are not danceable pants.
Well, great. I think it'll be interesting to compare this to the other movies and kind of where it's going to fall. So hopefully it'll be greater than that number 43.
I hope so.
Your eyes. Yeah.
At least I like things to move up. Maybe we'll give it to 40.
Yeah.
Recommendations.
Well, it's a new year, which means I was thinking of some goals for this podcast, and I thought it would be really fun to add a new segment because especially since we'll be tackling these rom-coms, I thought it'd be good to kind of check in and talk about some of the current things that I'm watching, the future guests are watching. So recommendations. So Whitney, what's it may be a TV show, it may be another movie, it might be a book you're reading, it might be a song, maybe a stage play you've seen. Just in the world of entertainment, is there something that you think people should check out?
Yeah, so I have gotten really invested in books on tape. I don't think I'm supposed to call it that, but books on tape right now from the library, because Nathan lovingly set it up for me. And so I have loved having the chance to just check out books and read again, because I can listen to them in my car. And so right now I've been listening. I do a lot of audiobooks. I love fiction. I love fiction books. And so Catherine Center is an artist I found recently from Texas, and I really have liked her books. So I would recommend Catherine Center. Yeah,
so much so. I think Whitney's been finding excuses not to get away from us or the house, but little errands to run so she can finish a chapter or finish the book.
Yes, I have.
A recommendation I have, we actually just finished it. The season ended earlier this year, maybe at the end of 2022, but it's on Hulu, so FX on Hulu. Really recommend Flashman is in Trouble.
I loved it too.
Yeah, we watched it together, and I will say, just forewarning, the sexual content is pretty high up there in moments, but also it may hit really hard in places, especially if someone has gone through a divorce or just a really rough breakup. But it stars Jesse Eisenberg, Claire Danes is in it as well, and then now her name's escaping. Liz Kaplan, she's in it, and she's terrific. A lot of people recognize her from Mean Girls. Adam Brody's in it. Yeah, but it's very much, it'll remind you of a Woody Allen-esque type of film, but it's set in New York City, and it kind of switches. Jesse Eisenberg's the main character, but it switches amongst all the players, so to speak. But man, it really tells this tale about midlife, regardless if you've gone through a divorce or not. And so, anyway, we just really recommend it. It's 8 episodes.
It feels like a novel as you're in it. So
yeah. And so that's a show that I think people should check out. I want to thank you, Whitney, for coming on and
coming on twice.
That's real love.
That is real love. Just like I went out with you the second time. Yeah. Maybe the second time's the charm for us, Nathan.
Yeah. Next week we're going to hit number 19 on the list, which is the 1987 romantic adventure, The Princess Bride. I grew up on this movie. but honestly, never thought about it as a romantic comedy. Did you, Princess Bride, a romantic comedy? Did you ever think of it like that?
Yeah, but I was a girl. In what year was that made? 1987?
87.
87. I was a girl and you were a boy. I think that makes a big difference. I think you watched it as a action.
I like the sword fights.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's not the same as How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and I'm sure they ranked it higher. But
yeah. Well, so I'm really looking forward to revisiting that classic 80s film. Remember, if you want to see the full list of movies that we're going to cover, you can head on over to moviesaurelife.com. You'll also find other great things like past episodes. And recently I've been posting a lot of reviews of recent hits like Glass Onion, a great international film on Netflix, All Quiet on the Western Front, Matilda the Musical.
Ooh, loved it.
Yeah.
So good.
That could have been in our recommendations for sure. But thanks for being the first guest to kick off this series. And I'm sure you're glad that you were by yourself this time. I didn't lump you in.
Yeah, first is the best, right?
Right. So
he must really love me.
Yeah. Well, we've got to take off, and we got to go water our love ferns and make sure they don't die. So anyway, thanks for listening.